When you start charity, there's a lot of hand clappers, but whatever you receive needs to go for its intended purposes. Not even a dollar should come back to you. Now, the mind out there is that most people feel like charity is an escape route for you to become rich.
Yeah.
The only way you'll become rich from charity unless you are corrupt.
Okay, so Frolin, thank you so much for coming on Africa Speak.
Okay.
So across the African continent, we have so many youth leaders, we have so many fellowships, we have foundations, we have charity organization, we have conferences that are happening all over. But the thing is that the old man, the same old man still holds the power. So my question is, so let us maybe if you can start simply. So do young Africans actually have power, or are we just performing leadership up until the system actually gives us permission to?
Okay. Thank you for the wonderful question. It's really intriguing, and I should say it's one of the most questions that everyone is asking right now. Do the young people have power,
Yeah.
or are we emulating power that we still don't have? So I'll use it's kind of an extensive if we put it at large at an African context.
Yeah.
But let's narrow it down to some certain African countries. And we'll start by looking at example of our own country. One will get to us. Do the youth have a voice in Namibia, or do we have power? And to my understanding and to my observation and knowledge, I would say the young people are still emulating power which we do not have. Because for one to understand what power is, you should be able to influence. You should be able to carry out tasks that you possess that power to at least make directions and inform people that they should carry out this and this. But as far as I'm concerned right now, there's no young person that still holds that power that can give directives for a certain agenda to be carried out without the help of the elders. So young people in the African context, we are emulating power that we still don't have. The elder generation still are holding on to the power that we seek to have so we can make some changes that we want to see.
And then there probably any other any other African country that we can actually see where we have young people that are actually they can influence policies or they can influence change.
I'll take an example of Angola. We have some certain influential young people that should they be put in power, they could make some changes. We have Chisingi. He's a good activist that I've been following up, and I was also glad to be with him in the US under the fellowship. We spent some time together, and you can see this is someone that with given them favorable environment, they could really deploy some changes on the ground, but yet they can emulate that power. They can be an advocate, but they still don't have it. They can't make changes yet, no tangible changes. We can take a look at it. We can take a look at Zambia. We have Chindali, is a good pro political activist also in Zambia, but still he can only voice out as much as he can. But can he make any changes on the ground? Not yet. He doesn't have power, but he can emulate power and stand and advocate. But still, he doesn't have it. We have an example, a good one of Mboemo in Botswana, a good guy that invented, which is something that we are so fascinated about. You can test malaria without drawing blood, but he can't carry out. It's a pilot. It's something that they're just hypothesizing on. They don't have the power to make it mandatory or to at least implement it because they are young and they lack resources and all this. So we can mention a lot. We have Tanzania, some few countries that I've been to. We have Malawi and all that. But on contrary, we can all derive to say that young people at this stage, we are emulating power. We are still not yet having the power, because having power, it's for you. You are able to control people. But none of the youth right now are able to control people or control a certain directive and say this and this should be done this way. We can voice out. We can be advocates. As we are called by today, the new norm that is coming, that we are this online or social media journalists or investigators or judges and all this. We throw so much energy on social media. We emulate so much power on social media. But when it comes on the ground, we still don't have any tangible results. So we don't have power as young people.
Interesting, hey? And so you wear many titles. You are a youth advocate, you are a foundation founder, You are a Mandela Washington fellow. So which one would you say is the one that actually produce real and measurable change and not just visibility?
I'm a charity guy.
Hmm?
I'm a charity guy. So if you go out there and look for Florian, there's a high chance you might not get Dr. Marembo without a PhD. But if you say I'm looking for Mr. Charity, yeah, there's a high chance that they might pinpoint you in the direction where I am. So honestly, to say from all the titles that you have listed,
Yeah.
I'm more known for what I do on the ground. I'm a community guy. I'm someone that loves being in the community and to see that if we can make an impactful change on the ground. So my work aligns with what I do on a daily basis. I'm more into the philanthropy space. As they say, we are normally the soldiers on the ground, even though we also have the road people that are in, making it enable for us to be on the ground. So my work revolves around charity work, community development. This is where the impact really lies. Because working with the people on the ground, it's what powers me and it what drives me. And honestly, from a tender age, for me, having a foundation at the age of 17 naturally triggered my inspiration to say that I can make a change. And that change that I wish to see starts within myself before I bring it out there. And for the past 12 years to 13 years, that has been my life. I've been an advocate on the ground for community development so we can see some changes, what we can really, because like Nelson Mandela said, apartheid is man-made, but with the influence of people and the interventions of people, we can narrow it down and at least break it. So the same with poverty. I'm someone that believes that poverty is man-made. And with the interventions of certain influential people or certain individuals, we can not eradicate it, but at least we can reduce its impact towards our people. And that has been my daily task. That has been my goal since 17. I've always tried to see how best we can reduce the impact of poverty towards our own society and people. So that's what really evolves from all those titles.
Yeah.
Mr. Charity Guy.
Mr. Charity Guy. So would you say, are you a product of charity as well? Or like, why you, is it just something, what was the inspiration for you to actually start a charity organization?
Good question. So I was born in the almighty region of Kavango East. Back then it was one Kavango, and now it's Kavango East because I'm on the east side. So I migrated from the almighty region at the age of 1. And my entire life I was raised in the capital by both my parents. So let's say the passion and the love for doing community work and voluntary work started when I was grade 11, when I was 17. And I say it was triggered by the aspect of, honestly, I never felt the impact of poverty on me. As to say, I was raised of half of my age in the informal settlements of Okuriangava before moving to the formal suburbs. But my parents made sure I had what I needed. So I'll be that child that say I'm fortunate. At least my parents worked hard to give me what I needed. And the word poverty, I knew it because I read books and because of school, but I never felt its impact. But then my surrounding, because it's Kuriangava, it's the informal settlement. All the bad things happen in the informal settlement as people dim your legs, is it? So my surrounding, that's what really triggered me to start up a charity organization. The impact that poverty had on my neighbors or on my surrounding as a community, I could really tell what poverty was really doing to other households, whether it be by the lack of food, lack of clothing, lack of empowerment or encouragement and all that. So that's how I started the organization. I gave birth to it from my heartfelt, let's say heartfelt, say from my heartfelt observations of what poverty was doing to my surrounding and also with the peers when we interact as young, because we grow up as in an informal settlement. So when you interact with others, you could really tell what poverty was doing to the other one and all that. So it triggered that attention to say, perhaps I never had a dream at the age of 17 to start an organization. I started as a voluntary thing that I started with my own clothing, giving out my own clothing, and then my mom noticed. She picked it up like, you normally have clothes. Where are the clothes going? Like, no, I gave some to who I gave. Like, oh, is that what you're doing now? Like, yeah, no, because of A, B, C, D. So On a Saturday, I still remember the day, it was 6th of June.
Mm.
She called me, like she went through all my sister's clothing and her own clothes. She said, like, here's some bags. You can give to the community that you wish to give, that you see they are in need. So that triggered and that gave birth to what we call today as a charity foundation. So that's how it started from my bedroom. That's how we gave birth to the organization.
Interesting. And now it's actually growing and making an impact within the informal settlements. Yeah. So billions are actually spent across the African continent empowering young people. But then, like, where is the return on investment?
Good question. We're gonna narrow it down a bit. Let's take an example of our own country. Here and then we're reading the news who traveled outside, was funded by a certain agency or ministry and all that. That's an investment from the government. So practically this is where we are really not getting it right.
Yeah.
We are so much triggered to fund these young people or to spend on them as in equipping them. But when they return, are we giving them the space to give back to the community or give back to the young people? So this is where it's becoming a problem. Someone goes out there and a skill and knowledge, but when they come back here, it becomes a household development. So this is where millions are seen going to waste. We are giving birth to products that we can enable them to come back and also give growth to the next generation or to the next youth. So that's where we are failing. And I believe if should we look into the whole introspective, we should decide that whoever goes out, it doesn't necessarily need to be outside the country, within the region itself. There's a skill that you find in Vendu that can be found in other towns. Should this young person be empowered here in Vendu, which is the capital city?
Yeah.
Upon their completion, can they be given even an internship? Can they be given even an opportunity to go out there, whether it's Okahao, whether it's Sauyema or Kaisosi, anywhere deep in the remote areas, to give back to the community to what they have learned? And that's how we share knowledge and that's how we're going to grow.
Yeah.
But until then, we will always keep producing household development. I call it household development because me leaving the country and coming back and then only informing the household people that this is what I learned. That's household development because no one benefits in the community. It's not emulated up on the national or regional level. So that's why we tend to forget that, oh, who was outside the country? When did they get back? Because they are never given those opportunities.
And they went to represent, we went to represent the youth.
Exactly.
Namibian youth.
So it becomes a challenge in that space.
Yeah. So, but with organizations such as like, or maybe like opportunities such as Mandela Washington, do one come back with a plan of what you're coming to do to you with the knowledge and the experience that you gained?
Okay.
Or would you get the help at least?
Beautiful question. And you are lucky you are talking to one of the products. So basically, the narrative that's behind the whole program is that even before you leave, you leave with a plan. When you arrive in the States, you have a plan of what you wish to do. So your stay in the state is for you to perfect your plan as to how you're gonna bring it back and then implement it. So it's quite a learning journey whereby, because for an example, I can take an example of myself. When I left, the plan that I left with is not the plan that I came back with. I thought I knew more when I left, but when I got there, the exposure and how things are done, I learned it's a broader way. And the way I came back, it's another different stage of how I can implement it. And in regards to say if you get help, and I think it just depends on what category you are or in which industry you are and all that. I will say help is out there. And it's sometimes for us young Namibians ourselves or young African leaders that intend, like when we come back, we tend to focus on other individual aspects and all this. Like I would speak based on the 2025 Mandela Washington cohort that left the country. Were around 17 of us. And look, when we got back, we hosted the soup kitchen with the Ombos Valley in Katatura, and we are still working towards another activities as a group. Because one thing that has deterred the process for people not to be seen or the impact to be seen is because when we get back, we start working in silos, like individually. I want to be seen that I'm Florian, and this is what I'm bringing back. I want to be seen that I'm who. But when we work as a team, it becomes a collective effort, and we really honor and appreciate our cohort. We don't know how the other cohorts did it, but for us, before we left, our exchange and development officer from the US Embassy even told us, like, no, you guys need to have a collective idea. We want to see you work towards one common goal, despite you guys having your individual projects that you are passionate about or that you wanna focus on to. But we want to see you guys have at least that collective project that represents all of you as to what you stand for or what you want to put on the ground. So I would say those programs are good.
Yeah.
And coming back, help is there. It just needs to be triggered by us, as people that got the skill or the opportunity to be abroad. When we get back, we need to bring this closer to the people that are here. That okay, this is what we learned and this is how we vision it. But for one, I believe is that if there are 10 ears in the room, 9 can ignore, but there will be one that will listen.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And you know, like with the whole thing of like charity organization and NGOs, and we have some like we really have people like you who have like a genuine heart of wanting to be within that helping community and many more others. But then we have people that I can come into the charity or I can come into the NGO space and using the NGO as like an scapegoat or to actually, you know, use funds for different things and stuff like that. So, how do you avoid becoming part of the industry that actually profits from problems instead of solving them?
Sure. I never saw that one coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. But basically, in the world of NGOs,
Yeah.
as we call them, non-profit organizations, now it's quite a challenging space,
Yeah.
especially for the young.
Mm.
For some, they see it as like you say,
Yeah.
everyone wants to create a name for themselves because of people have different intentions. Some come with intentions to be recognized that they are doing something for the community. Some come with intentions because they want to build on their name
Yeah.
or character and all this. So basically, it's kind of a tricky world. But for I'll take it from my perspective, whereby when dealing with aspect of people that are coming to you as either funders or donors, it's where we really need to be careful, and that's where you need to read the whole document, whether it's 72 pages or 92 pages. You need to read and understand what you're signing. And particularly in my space or in our charity, we normally do like we don't associate ourselves whether politically, because we wish to work with any political party that comes, because for the for the cause of humanity. Should any political party show up today that no, this is the funds we have, we wish to work with you guys, and then we want to put ABCD on the ground, we welcome that opportunity. But there's no way we're going to affiliate ourselves towards that political party or that certain system, because the next day another party can show up. Because for us, what's in for us is the impact that we are putting on the ground and the changes that we are building. So in our space, it's kind of risky. There are a lot of people that have gone through the process that you're saying, that people came and then at the end of the day, you get to realize that people were just actually upscaling their own ambitions. So you need to think critically, invite in some certain colleagues that you know, or some certain organizations that you know that are in the same space, analyze that why are they coming to us and what is really in for them. Because one thing we know is that everyone has a price. There's always something that is in for someone that comes, even though it's genuine. Even for me as a charity person, if you ask me right now what is in for you on charity, I'll tell you the smile that I get to put on a vulnerable family or child. That's what's in for me. If I can provide a meal, if I can put shelter, if I can provide water or any sanitation to a vulnerable family, that's what's in for me. I get to feel fulfilled and I have a purpose. So each funder that comes will also be like, no, what is in for you? Do you want to be recognized? Because we normally do recognition as NGOs, that we have received a certain amount, we have received a certain help from a certain individual or company or political party. So do you want us to recognize you nationally on the media or anything? And then they will say that no, for me, okay, I'm also coming in genuinely because I want to help, or I want my recognition, or it's maybe part of our corporate social responsibility. We want to be known that we are not just a profit company, but we are also helping NGOs. So it's just a matter of we need to sit, you need to analyze, and you need to pay very much content to the aspect of before you sign anything, read thoroughly and understand what you are signing.
That's quite interesting, eh? And you know, we have this thing of like we young people, you are an advocate, you are an activist, and you are doing all these charity organization or charity things, and then you kind of like neglect your own kind of like career, or you kind of like neglect your own self-development. So where do we draw boundaries, or like where do we, is it just like I have a passion, let me just focus on this? and then you forget about yourself, or like,
Honestly, you are
did you
speaking to someone that
wait,
went through it, and there are still more that are going through it. At the moment, I'm mentoring 3 people that are upcoming philanthropists, or how we may choose to call them, or charity people and all that. So it's very interesting. You know, when you start charity, there's a lot of hand clappers. But one thing I would say, I've been in the industry for almost 13 years now, because I started my NGO in 2012 at a very young age. And bear in mind, my dad has no knowledge on charity organizations, neither does my mom.
Yeah.
So when I started off mine, it was me and myself, and then YouTube, and then the internet. So it was quite me learning from my mistakes to where I am. And at least I'm grateful to the 3 mentees that I have. At least they have a Florian that is really paving a way for them to see, so they don't make the same mistakes that I make. Now, in the world of charity, majority outside the scope of charity, they feel like we benefit. But remember that there's a constitution that stipulates rules and regulations of that foundation. Whatever you receive needs to go for its intended purposes. Not even a dollar should come back to you, unless it's stipulated in your constitution that 10% will be retained for our administrational purposes, or 20%. Now, the mind out there is that most people feel like charity is an escape route for you to become rich. The only way you'll become rich from charity unless you are corrupt. And if not, then you can't. So many people tend to neglect their dreams. I was one of them that really paid so much, dived in fully into charity. Like, no, I love what I do. One day God will give me back. Yeah, God one day will give you back, but it's also up to you to make the right decisions. That where do I draw my boundaries? So to be honest, one thing I will really just put out there to the other ones to say that when it comes to the world of charity, you really don't need to pour your whole, okay, you need to pour your whole heart in, but not work smart, not harder. So, and one way that we've been seeing right now is that you don't need to neglect yourself. For example, when we started off, it was a daily job. Like, I wake up every day and I need to do charity. But little did I learn, I don't need to cook every day, even though I run a soup kitchen. I can choose to cook Fridays and Sundays, or Wednesdays and Sundays. What does that do for me? At least I'm saving on food until I get the next donor. Because what happens when you run out of food? It's not every proposal that you put out there that will be successful. There are nights that we used to spend and we are thinking like, so where's the next meal coming from for these kids? And when you don't have a donor at that moment, you take in your own pockets. And that's you taking from your own self-development. So for all to say in short is that you don't need to neglect yourself, and you just need to draw a boundary that when it comes either to finances and when it comes to the aspect of your time, you need to stipulate that this is how much I dedicate in my charity work, and this is how much I can spend from my own pocket into my charity work. And as I say now, the more we are, the better. I learned this from another colleague of mine who's also into the same space as me, Simon Adula. He always say that the more we are, the better. So you don't need really to carry out the whole region, just you doing your advocacy there and doing your soup kitchen. You can always call in volunteers. You can always call in other NGOs, like, let's collaborate. Work becomes much easier, because if one can bring a 5 kg, the other one brings a 10 kg, life becomes easier, and you can still achieve your goal as an organization or as an individual.
Yeah, that's so true. Because I think one thing that we lack as Namibian youth, or within our community, is actually collaboration and working together, because we just want to be recognized. Elizabeth is doing what, Marembo is doing what, and who is doing better, who is actually like more visible and stuff like that. Yeah. So, and I just want us to go back to actually like the first part of young people and power, because I just want to understand, like, are African youth really powerless, or probably are we just divided, too divided?
Honestly, okay, that question can be examined from both perspectives. To say, at a certain level, we can say we are divided, and at a certain level, we can also still say that we are powerless. Why would I say so? Let's take it back to history. There's always a question in the history question paper that used to come, question C. It will ask you, to what extent do you agree or disagree with Hitler's foreign policy? So we'll narrate it in the same scenario, whereby we say, are we powerless or are we divided? At a certain extent, I do agree that we are powerless. We have a voice which is not recognized, and we don't have the means and the capacity to make changes yet. As we say, I'll always emulate it to one of my favorite lecturer at UNAM. I won't mention the name though. He'll always say that, the person with ideas is always broke or doesn't have money. And the person with money is always not having ideas. That's how it works in
Please
normal
spell
world.
out the name.
Yeah. No, we wouldn't mention the name. Yeah. So we are powerless at a certain extent that to say that we don't have the resources to make changes. I can't wake up as me Marembo today in Kehemo and say I'm putting roads in Kehemo because I'm tired of the sandy roads and my car always gets stuck because I don't have the means and the resources. But I have the voice. I can start screaming on top of my lungs standing at my gate to say that no, we need better roads. But it will gonna fall on deaf ears of the people that have the resources. Why do we say we are divided? Now, with all the political affiliations that are coming up, and which is also something that is very interesting as to say for this year, I'm very excited about the regional and local authority elections for this year because I don't know who's selling independent candidacy on Black Friday because it's almost every constituency has an independent candidate, something that we haven't seen in the past years. But this year, someone sold it on Black Friday because seems like every constituency could afford it. So why are we divided? Now we are being divided not really by the youth themselves, but it's the older generation. Strings are being pulled. As we say, some of us stand in front of people and we are remotely controlled. When I speak, people say, no, it's Marembo speaking. No, it's not Marembo speaking. Someone is busy pressing buttons that when you get there, I'm given a memo of what to say. So with all the education that we have attained as young people, we all have different reasoning, we all have different mindsets, and what I see relevant to me, it's not relevant to Elizabeth. So that's now what's creating our division. We are not working towards a common goal to solve a problem. And we can still pin it on the aspect that Elizabeth want to be known that she's doing ABCD. And Florian wants to be known that she's doing ABCD. That's also bringing in the division. So what's separating the youth in that aspect is that we are trying also to create names for ourselves. Everyone wants to be a founder. Everyone wants to be a director. So with the little resources, there's already a bit of scarcity of resources, especially if we bring it back to the world of NGOs. That's why we are saying that the more we are, the better, but let's not duplicate initiatives. Because if I have a soup kitchen in Havana and someone has a soup kitchen in Havana again, and Elizabeth shows up as a funder, who do you fund? And if you have little resources, because me dividing that small resources to you, it's going to help you for one day. But if I was going to give it to both of you to collaborate, it's probably going to make a difference in the long run. So the political affiliations, that's one of our division that we're having as young people. We're all trying to make it there to be known that no, I'm part of a certain party and I'm recognized as a what and all that. And we are neglecting our skills and talents and also our visions of young people as to what do we really want to see on the ground and what do we want to see in Namibia after 10 years from now on. That's what's creating really on the balance to say that we are bringing our own division due to political affiliations and due to the aspect that everyone wants to be a founder, everyone wants to be known for something. And in that line, we keep bridging the gap, keeps widening.
Okay, so like when the young people, when we are divided, especially maybe by tribe, by politics, by class, and by ego, who benefits when we stay actually divided?
It's kind of a tricky question because it literally you wouldn't be able to tell who benefits because one thing is this. They say divide and conquer. So we wouldn't want to picture it in a way that no, there's a certain tribe that benefits when we are divided. If we take a perspective of our own country, Namibia, whereby we have a large population of what we call it the firstborns. That's what we call the Oshuambo speaking people because they are more than 50% of the population. But there's no evidence that will say today that no, when the youth are divided, then the Oshuambo youth gets to benefit. There's no tangible evidence that we can see because it's not in the nature of to say because we are divided as young people, then there's a certain class that is favored. So when we divide ourselves, we get all to feel the pinch because even if we say, like it is right now out there, most people, especially on social media, take it that no, when you're born an Oshuambo speaking person in this country, you are privileged. But drive deep in the north, there are Oshuambo youth and there are Oshuambo people that are still suffering compared to their magnitude of poverty compared to other race. Exactly. But if you go to someone that is self-centered and a bit of closed mind, they'll be like, no, the Oshuambo people are living large because they are favored and all that. If you have Oshuambo surname and all that. If there's some certain of evidence to that, we don't know that in my perspective. But when we are divided as young people, especially by race, we are really depreciating ourselves because we could work towards a common goal. and then find a purpose to what we can solve as young people. And we can narrow it to the perspective of to say that that's why we are having, there's no regional trade among the young people. Because take an example of my region, one of the most decentralized region in the country, Kavango East. We have high biodiversity. We have land that is, let's say the factors of production are in Kavango. We have timber in Kavango. But then is the timber being exported to Ohangwena region? We don't do that. But that could at least benefit both youth because we could create employment in that aspect. We have timber that is being exported outside the country. And then later, after 5 days, you'll find out that these news headlines in Kavango East or West, whereby children are sitting on the floor because they don't have tables and chairs. But where do those tables and chairs come from? It's from those trees. Or nearly we hear that there's no chairs in Ohangwena region and all that. But Kavango could have provided that, and we could have at least had a regional trade with it on the youth level and all that. We could interact it and all this. So the division of young people as a country itself, every tribe or everyone involved gets to feel the disadvantage of it, because when we are divided, we are more focused on self-centered development, which doesn't really happen at a faster or speedy rate. But if we could all put aside our egos and then decide to come together as young people, no matter, we don't need a race, we don't need the gender, we don't need from which ethnic group you are, we stand in solidarity as one Namibia, we can make tangible changes into the life perspective of young people. Because one thing I know is that where 5 to 6 people are gathered, there's probably 4 skills, because everyone is bringing different knowledge to the table, and at the end of the day, we can pave a way. But when we work in silos, when we work in separation, that's where it becomes a problem for us. That's where you see even young people businesses are not really becoming so prominent and successful, because people don't trust young people as an individual. I can't trust you with $1 million already, but what if we took 2 people from Omaheke, 2 from Wangwena, 2 from East, and some from Zambezi? Let's say 5 ethnic groups represented with one proposal. And then we say, we want this certain type of resources because we envision to put A, B, C, and D in Omaheke or Angwena, Zambezi, Ochazonjupe, and all that. Someone gets to think, why did they come together as a collective effort? Perhaps it's tangible. We can assist them. But if I show up there alone and demand some huge sum of money, people get to fear that we give you today, tomorrow you are driving the M4. There's no tangible results on the ground.
It's true, it's true. So if you had to design a united youth bloc that could negotiate power, what would it look like?
Wow. That's quite interesting. First and foremost, when you want power, so you know what's happening on the African continent, and with some people taking it to social media with the coup and all that. Okay, it works maybe for other countries, but I wouldn't really encourage such activities of how to get power. So if we are to look especially internally in our own country, how do we get our voice to be heard by the older generation, or how can we be given assistance, or how do we get that resources that we need, so that it can enable us to bring upon changes that we wish to put on the ground. The first thing is to organize ourselves. And as I firstly emulated that, in a room of 10 people, 9 people can ignore, but there's an ear that will listen up that what you're trying to put on the ground actually makes sense. Maybe we should try it. So deriving as a scope of how we can really go about it as young people, the first thing is we should organize ourselves, and most of all, we should respect the elders, because we have one thing I've really picked up with us young people is that we feel like we have earned the education that we have, and we feel like we have more knowledge or we know more than the elder generation. But one thing that they say, an old horse always knows the way better than the new horse. You see, the old knows the way. All we need to do is bring our ideas to them, and then they can pave us and show us how to do it and all that. And where we see that now it's moving to the new generation, at least we can now at least negotiate with them that, okay, maybe we can do it this way. So the first and foremost thing is we should organize ourselves, not violently and with the demonstrations that have been taking place and all this. Some are useful, but honestly, some demonstrations in Namibia, I've sit at home and watch on the television, I'm like, that will end in court, or that will not end anywhere. They will finish there and we'll forget about it. So the first thing that I can pick up is that young people, we should organize ourselves in whatever we do, and then we should follow the right channels. There are protocols, there are rules, and there are regulations. There's no need for us to jump from a region and then we want to end up at High Court already or the Supreme Court. There are magistrate courts in that particular region or town. So first, we should organize ourselves, respect the laws that are in place, respect the elders, and then from there, bring it to the table. Let's call them into a room like this is what we have. We are 10 of us and we are from different ethnic groups, we are from different regions and all that. Oh, let's see if we are putting it at a national level. 2 from each region, we are 28 because we have 14 regions in this country. So that's almost every region represented, and I'm sure it's going to cover almost every ethnic group that is represented. We call in who needs to hear it. We present or we do a presentation that this is what we have and this is what we envision, but we need at least power for us to establish, or we need at least assistance for us to put this on the ground. I, for one, that I believe that when you approach the office in the right order and in the right manner, if they don't render you assistance, they might point you in the right direction that you'll get assistance. But if we choose to come there with our posters and then with our speakers and start just harassing people verbally and all that, it doesn't work out. We won't achieve what we want to do.
Yeah. So across a continent, we keep seeing like the same names on every youth panel. So has representation become an insider's game?
I would say, at a certain extent, I would say yes. I will agree.
Yeah.
I'll agree. At an African perspective, mostly of the bigger conferences and seminars that we've been attending, you'll see, especially the panelists, it's always 2 or 3 young people and all that. But
Same ones, mostly.
Mostly same ones, or let's not even put it to the same ones, whether it be the same or not. But it has become an inside game whereby we feel like we are included in the decision making, or we have a voice, or we have a say in whatever is going to go on. But literally, those people that always get to represent, they are remotely controlled, and they have memos that they need to go read. For an example, there was one that took place in, was it in Botswana, I think, 4 years back. You see, one of the colleagues actually was given a memo, but when he went there, he said his mind. And then he was pulled off, like, no, that's not what we said you should say. You see. So basically, young people sitting at the panelist of these bigger events at the African perspective it's disguised. It doesn't really give the representation of youth ideologies. Because especially when it becomes repeatedly the same people. And I can also put it to the test to say that when youth people from Namibia gets invited, and this is something that I observed myself, we get to see young people, the same faces always attending these events, and one gets to ask, why is it always the same people? Are we saying there's no capacity? Are we saying other youth don't deserve the same opportunities? Or are we saying they're not qualified to be in the same space and all that? So you can bring it to the extent to say that, okay, some it's because of information barriers. Not much of the information reaches the intended young people that deserve the opportunities. And some, we should say, is that it's the aspect of the inside games whereby we send who we can, because when they come back, we can tell them what to do. And we send Florian when he comes back, he will start saying things that we don't want him to say and all that. So there's really a lack of representation in ideology-wise. But physical representation, there are always young people at the panelists, especially at African conferences and all this. But after the conference, what are the tangible outcomes? When those reports are designed, when those outcomes come out, there is nothing for the youth that you can really hold on and say, we can use this as a mechanism to bring change upon what we want as young people. It dies after the conference, everyone goes back to their country.
Interesting. So you founded the Marembo Foundation, Charity Foundation. So has charity become a substitute for justice, fixing symptoms while the systems remain the same?
Good question. I never pictured in that scenario of the charity substituting justice. Okay, basically to say is that the first thing we'll look at is that how much of justice can a charity organization bring upon a community? That's one thing we should look in. Now, it comes back to power. Who holds the power? Believe me, there are many out there that wish to do grateful things and all that, but they don't have the power. So I wouldn't say charity has become a substitute for justice, because believe me, as a charity person and for all the colleagues that are out there doing charity work, it's very easy to make an impact on an individual level. It's changing a life of someone. But it takes bold movement or bold steps for you to make a change on a community or on a space of a regional level and all that, it becomes quite intensive because there are laws, there are regulations. You wish to put something good on the ground, but then you'll find that there are some challenges and hiccups that you come until you give it up yourself. Like, all I'm trying to do is better someone's life or better a community, but then you guys want me to sign A, B, C, D. I should go through who and who and who until you give up yourself. So the laws still remain the same and the system still remain the same. Charity hasn't become a substitute to justice. It's at some certain level, we can say that, yeah, we are doing some justice, but I wouldn't still confide to say it's enough to substitute the justice system itself.
Yeah.
It's not happening, unfortunately. We are doing as much as we can with the little that we can, but it's not enough to be seen as justice. Putting food on someone's table today, you wouldn't ask that justice because that person will still go hungry after 2 days or after 1 day. So did you do any justice for that person? No.
Interesting. Okay, moving to politics, a little bit of politics. So you have written that you should vote beyond party loyalty.
Yes.
But just to be honest, do young Africans still believe their votes matters?
Okay. Thank you for the question. It's a very interesting question. Yeah, for one, we believe that our vote really matters and counts, because one thing we should, as young people, one thing we should really ask ourselves is that
Yeah.
we are entrusted with the power to vote for the highest office of the country. If we take an example of Namibia or any African country, which is the president, and actually voting, it's one way of us participating in decision making, because to me as an observer and to me as an analyst, I would say, and we need to say, that's the only chance that we have in decision making and who should govern us. Apart from voting, what other methodologies are there, or what other channels are there where we are really consulted as the public for us to take part in decision making? It barely happens. So when we say that vote beyond particulars, one thing we have really seen as young people, we are a bit confused. Believe me, I wouldn't want to mention any particulars here, but if they take Florian's face right now and put me next to any particular that they know that this party has a prominent of winning, I'll win that election. Why? It's not because of Florian, it's because of the particular that is next to me. So it's about time we start acknowledging that the party is a vehicle.
Yeah.
That enables someone to bring change upon whatever, especially when it comes, because at national level, we don't have much to say because we need to vote for a president who's going to oversee the whole country. So with he or she, the excellency, they have the responsibility for the entire country. It's their baby. But when we come to local authority or to the constituency, but that individual that stands in that office will be the person to oversee the development at the constituency level. So who we put in that office or who we vote for determines the development of that certain constituency. So if we base it on particulars, that's when we get to see that after we have voted the person in power, nothing is happening, and then it's us again that are going to complain. But we are forgetting that it's us that have put that person in powers. So we should start looking beyond the means of particulars and really look at the person's capability. We need to see, is the person merit for the job, and is the person having the skills and the knowledge that will transform our society? Is the person a good listener? Because as a leader, you need to be a good listener. You need to listen to your people. There is a say from our lecture from you now, who I won't mention up to date. He always used to tell us that the smartest lion in the jungle never kills the cheetah around it. Why? Because the cheetah is the fastest land mammal, and it's easier to bring prey down. When the cheetah brings the prey down, the lion confiscates and eats. Who takes the win? So leaders should be good listeners because they don't need to work hard. The community needs to work for itself. They bring the ideas. All the leader needs to do is channel them, but who gets to score the credits? If we see 5 toilets built in Okangwati right now, they'll be like, yeah, the council of Okangwati is going to inaugurate 5 toilets in whatever. Who gets the credits? It's the councillor. But who brought up the whole idea and who was working on the idea? It's the community. So we should look beyond the particulars and really look into the aspect of the person's capabilities to bring tangible development and results within our space and community.
Okay. So how do you make civic courage possible when people's livelihood depend on party connections?
How do we make?
How do you make civic courage possible when people's livelihoods depend on party connections?
Okay. One thing I like most is we should create more awareness. Because one thing I believe in is that you cannot enslave a mind that knows itself, no matter how much you try. Awareness is something that is really lacking among our people. So for us to encourage that civic education in them, they need to be aware. Why is it important for me to vote? Why do they need my vote? What are my rights as a voter? Because one thing we should always advocate for is that people should understand why they are voting and who they are voting and what is the outcome of an election. You see, because one thing we barely see is that people always say that, okay, these elections, let's go queue up. Why are you voting? Ah, no, I'll find out when I get there. You see, or I'll choose the party that I'll think that I'll vote when I get there. We barely do research and we barely have awareness, especially in the remote areas. People just go vote because, yeah, I went to go vote and I got my thumb got marked that I voted already. But we lack awareness as to what is the importance of voting and what my vote means, or why is it important for me as an individual to vote for a particular individual, not a particular. Because as we said, the particular is a vehicle that enables that individual to get into the office. But the work won't be done by the party. The work will be done by the individual. So I can be from a good party, but if I'm lazy, if I'm unable to handle situations in that office, you won't see any developments because you were following the good party, but you're not looking at the merit of the candidate. So we should encourage more civic education on the aspect of we need to create more awareness. That's the only channel we can go to. As much as we can do the podcast, we can do the interviews and all that, awareness on the ground is needed, and people should understand the importance of voting and what are the outcomes. If I make a wrong decision, it's going to affect the next 5 years. That's what we.
Yeah, that's so true. So you have once wrote that the national holiday should be rethought. National holidays
Yes.
should be rethought. So that true celebration is civic responsibility and not actually like a ceremony. So what does that say about how Africans connect patriotism to participation?
Elizabeth, you did your homework. Congratulations on that. I didn't see that coming. Basically, it was a thought that was encouraged. I visited Tanzania, and back then, John Pombe Magufuli was around, the president. He's quite of one of the people that really inspired me. And to say that he was the first African president, to my knowledge, if there's any other, then I speak under terms of correction. To my knowledge, is the first African president that has cancelled the independence celebration at the independence or at the arena. So during the thought of writing that article, I pictured Namibia because as a human being, I was born on the 1st of April, and believe me, yeah, I was born on the 1st of April, but I'm no fool.
No.
Apologies. Yeah. So as a human being, we celebrate our birthday differently every year. So I started picturing Namibia. If she could speak up, what would she say to the audience or to the public? Like, why do you always, guys, when it's my birthday, we need to show up at the Independence Stadium, the Dance to Ndilimani songs, the dry rice and the t-shirt and the Coke and all that. But when we talk about development, where is the development? Like, we have attained freedom, which we are very grateful for, and we are very honored that our heroes and heroes have fallen on that particular day, and we honor them and all that. But for how long should we use that as an excuse? And for how long are we going to keep on wasting resources on one particular day? Because when the budget is sent out, it's sent to all 14 regions. So for how long? There is means and ways on how we should really see the changes and growth of Namibia as a country. As we say, a human being, you don't grow backwards, you are growing forward, you are becoming an elder. Namibia is growing. Here we are, we have our 5th and first female president. 4 years back or 10 years back, we never envisioned that we will have a female president, but it's because of growth that we came to that stage. So we want to see the aspect of to say that development should not be seen in us rallying up at the Independence Stadium, dancing and then getting a free t-shirt and a Coke. But when you get back home, because I always, since I was born, I'm 30 years of age. I've never attended any independence celebration at the arena. So it has been a fight with my mom because she always want us to attend those. And I've told myself I'm not attending because one thing I get to ask myself is that, fine, you go to the Independence Stadium. So, but when you get back home, Where is the development? Where is the growth in Namibia? Because it's still the same environment, no street lights, no proper sanitations. You are still using flying toilets or flying buckets and all this. But then you call yourself that, yes, we have attained independence and there is development. But what do we tell a child that is born 10 years from now that, how was Namibia when they were 36 or 35? What infrastructure can you pinpoint and say that this was built due to the 35th independence of Namibia when we celebrated it? Or this road was constructed or inaugurated by Honorable who during the independence celebration of 2026 and all that? We don't have any in place. So that's the thought that came in mind, that we are not, because a lot of people saw the article as that, no, I'm encouraging people to boycott independence. We should change the way we celebrate Namibia's birthday. That's the message behind the whole article. We should still feel honored and proud that it's a day that we gained freedom. But let's change the way we celebrate it. If this year, like we always say, there's always the national way it's hosted, and then the regions get to host their own. So we should at least put in place that, okay, fine. It's 2026, it's the 21st of March. There's a certain budget on the table. So we have 121 constituencies. We have 14 regional governors. Can Minister of Finance or whoever is dealing with the money send that money to the governors and say, governors, this is the budget that is on the table. Please send it to your constituency or local authority councillors. Let them do what they wish or what they see they can improve in their local constituencies or even at the regional level. So that next year when we say, how was independence last year? Like, we got street lights, or at least we got a sport field, or we got a community hall. So there should be growth and there should be changes that we are seeing, that the country is growing, and also that we are celebrating and we are honoring with the particular aspect of development. Not only going to the Independence Stadium, dancing to Ndilimani tunes, then getting your free rice and a Coke and a t-shirt, and then you come back home. So where's the development in that?
You go back to your Rabasho. That's the thing.
Still the same story.
The same thing. So what I'm understanding is that, like, we can actually celebrate Independence Day probably like with a new clinic that we open, and then it can be open on that same day or something like that.
We should see tangible development that is coming towards the people. John Pombe Magufuli channeled the funds to the local communities and say, improve your communities, bring water closer to the people. We have water crises that are going on in my birth region. We could address that certain issue that next year when it comes 2026, our independence is to celebrate. We are ensuring that no one goes without water. And that's something tangible. Come 2027 or a child born 2 years from now, like, how was it in 2026, my father? Like, you see that dam over there? Yeah, that was inaugurated by Governor who when we celebrated independence in 2026. There's something tangible that we can see that there's growth and there's development. But the state, as long as we keep celebrating it at the stadium, then I don't know what development we are looking at. Yeah, we can keep doing that, but there's no tangible results in that, and it's a waste of resources, because spending millions on one particular day, it doesn't really make sense to me as a Namibian.
Okay, so let's move to the book that you are writing.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That I've written.
Yeah, that you have written.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, you have written.
Yeah.
You have written. Okay, we will come to that.
Let's look for a day for publication.
We will come to that. So you have written a book about rebuilding the father-daughter relationship.
Yes.
So what made you connect leadership with fatherhood?
Okay. I'll always remember her. Her name is Marela. I think she was subcontracted by Conrad.
Oh, yeah. Marela.
Yes. Believe me, 5 minutes with her, I really changed my status of thought towards fatherhood and all that. So, come again. I was fortunate enough to be selected to attend one of their programs, which is the CASTEP, the Talent Empowerment Program for young people, and especially on civic education and all that. So, the first day I walked into the workshop, with a background of political science and the knowledge I enhanced. So, there was a question asked, do you think a 26-year-old can become a president? Now, for us graduates, we'll be like, yeah, why not? If I have the degree, I have the knowledge and all that. And then Miss Marela was like, that was Monday. He said, by Friday, you will come back and you will tell me it's not possible. And indeed, by Friday, I came back and I told her, it's not possible for a 25 to lead a country. Not because they can't, but there are still some certain stages and factors that needs to be in place. spiritual intelligence, emotional intelligence, and intellectual intelligence. Those are the most crucial factors that one leader has to enhance. Now, when you bring it back to leadership and fatherhood, again, back to Marela, a father is a dominant parent and a mother is a nurturing parent. That's why you always see that a mother will shout 10 times before a child would stop whatever they are doing, but a father will raise their voice once. Florian will stand up or he will go close the gate. Now, when it comes to the relationship of a father and a daughter, the first thought that came to my mind as a leader, a father, you represent the whole house. Whether you have sons and daughters and then your wife or whoever that you live with, you are the leader in the house. Yeah. You are the household head, as to say. You are leading the house. So one thing triggered the authoring of that book. What is happening in our country? Fathers standing on their daughters. You get to read in the article that there's a father that has been raping a daughter. There's a father that raped a daughter. And one gets to ask, what drives a man to that certain extent to start seeing something that you authored yourself? Let's say a child is like a book. You authored them into this world. You brought them into this world. And start diverting your attention as a father towards that child and start seeing them as a woman. So those thoughts come in. And given the background that I have daughters, I have two beautiful daughters. And so it triggered me to say, no, let's put in a research onto this space, like why, what's happening? Yeah. And then we could relate it a bit back to our own traditional norms. It's barely that you find a young lady sitting with a father, even having a discussion. In some tribes, it's seen as disrespect or it's not allowed. Whatever the daughter has to say shall go through the mother. Yeah. So it gave me that aspiration and intrigue to say that, let me see if I can put a book out there as to say, for us to do away with some of the social ills that are happening towards father and daughters, we should enlighten that relationship, because I believe for one is that a father is the most best friend that a daughter can have. And I pictured it to especially us, the young generation. So for us, it's like, we know what we did. We know what we told young girls when we wanted them and all that. So I stand as a better chance to advise my daughter that A, B, C, and D, if you hear it coming from a boy's mouth, my daughter, it's not true, because I once said it to someone also. And here I am. I didn't end up with them. I ended up with your mom or someone else. So leadership-wise, when it comes to the book that I authored, is that we want to build a relationship between a father and the daughter. A father should become the first best open book to the daughter, because girls that are raised up well becomes a social and a leader in community or society. And as to say, when that's why we're experiencing the aspect of, you find a young girl, age 15, 16, and they'll tell you, I'm dating a 40-year-old, someone that is old enough to be their father. Yeah. We start judging them. No, these young girls like nice things and all that, but they are lacking the father love. Believe me, there are men out there that are playing all three roles. I'm the boyfriend at the same time, I'm the father at the same time, and I'm still the best friend at the same time. That's because the love that they failed to get from their daddies, now they seek comfort in these elder men and all that. So we should do the streamline and say, the book is authored to the aspect, it's like a manual. When I was busy writing it, it's a book that I said, no, it's going to talk more about how a father should behave with a daughter and all that. But upon completing the writing of the book, that's when I started picturing it as a manual, or as a guiding tool for a father, how to tailor your relationship with your daughter. So we should look into, I'm excited about the book and the launching of it and all that, because I feel like it will at least be some of the aspect to say it's gonna reduce the aspect that we are, if for those that's gonna read it, we're gonna at least keep the aspect of fathers standing on to their daughters, and also open up that discussion. Yeah. I should be able to have topics of sex and certain whatever that needs to be discussed with my daughter, and we shouldn't shy away from it. There are some certain levels from my research that I found out that a girl can't even ask for the daddy money to buy pads. It's seen as disrespect, or it's seen as a taboo in their tribe or culture and all that. But that's not supposed to be like that. My daughter should be able to approach me that, Daddy, it's that time of the month. Please, I need some for my for sanitary pads. Yeah. And as a father, I shouldn't have any problem with that. And that's why we also need to teach the young man that is growing up that it's normal to touch a pad that has blood. I've touched it on countless times, and there's nothing wrong with it. I've gone into the shop and buy pads. There's nothing wrong with it. But a typical man, if you send them right now to the shop and tell them to buy a pad, they see it as no. they'll look at me as if I'm not a man, or they'll look at me in some ways and start thinking otherwise of me.
Yeah.
But that's now the whole ideology that we are trying to do away with the book, that as fathers, we should establish relationships with our daughters, and we should encourage them and nurture them in the way that they should open up to us. We want them to open up to us so we can at least be the best guiding tool that they can have before they make wrong decisions. Chapter 6 and chapter 7 speaks mostly prominently on daily guidance, like don't be harsh, be a guide, not a judge. And also, don't choose for her, because one thing we've realized in most time, especially the educated fathers,
Yeah.
you want to choose a partner for your
Yeah.
daughter, and that's really has broken a lot of families apart, because let the person experience and let the person be comfortable with who they wish to be with. But what do we do normally as daddies? I'm educated, I have a PhD. I wish my daughter to get married to someone that has a PhD too. The moment they choose a VTC or vocational training graduate, then it's very below my means, and then I'm not in support of it. What happens? I break her emotionally. So we really need to do away with the aspect father-daughter relationship needs to be established. Daughters need to open up to their fathers need to open up, because the continuous engagement with your child, you develop the bond and the love, and there's no way that you're going to end up sleeping with your own child that you normally engage with and interact with, and you open up topics and discussions with.
So if leadership begins at home, what does ethical fatherhood look like in practice?
Ethical fatherhood, I believe this one will be, as we always say,
Yeah.
every house has rules. Every home has guidelines. So I believe every father will picture ethical leadership or ethical fatherhood from their own perspective. Now, if I take it from my own perspective, ethical fatherhood is being transparent with your kids, or being transparent with your children, and then the aspect of also being accountable to them. One thing we should know is that our children don't owe us; we owe them. We brought them in this space, and we are responsible for them until the stage where they can be able to stand by for themselves, and or provide for themselves. So ethical fatherhood is the way of you passing on the torch to your children. And one thing that I've always highlighted, that which impacted me a bit, I always used my activities as an excuse to be with my family. I'm always busy, I'm always traveling, I'm always up and down. When the kids request, can we spend this weekend with you? No, I'll be where, because with the community. But one thing we know is that, one thing we should know as fathers is that whatever we do out there, one day it will come to an end, or it will never replace what we have lost with our family, or the love and the time that we would have spent with the family. So ethical fatherhood can be really be described. That's not something that can have a memo. It's from every father's perspective to say, I would like mine to be like this. I like going on trips with my kids. I like spending time with my children and all this. So we should be derived, but the core existence of ethical fatherhood should be, you should be transparent with your kids, and you should be at least accountable to what they tell you. Lately, there's been a trend on social media that goes to say that if you want to be a good father, or if you want to be a good parent, you should allow your children to hold you accountable when you are wrong, and you should be able to listen without being defensive. So that's also one way of putting it practical, and to say that I like my dad's. I'll quote it back to my own old man, my dad. He'll be like, if I scold you and I say something that's out of the scope or out of the narrative that we are having currently, don't correct me at that certain spot, because I'm still rage and I'm angry, and I'll see you as disrespectful. But once I calm down, or after 2 days or one day, call me to order, and like, Father, I appreciate all that you said, but at this certain point, you are totally wrong. I'm human, I'll accept and I'll apologize. So that's him being an ethical father. And that's one thing that my dad has taught me. Like, I can say a lot of things right now because I'm angry at you, or I'm raged and all that. And in my saying, I might say one or two things that are not really gonna make you happy. Don't respond, or don't be also defensive already. Let me calm, let me cool down. After one day, call me to order and say, Daddy, here A, B, C, and D was not right in my mind. And so that's another form of practicality of saying is being an ethical father. And that's also one thing I get out, like, we shouldn't be defensive as fathers, because we always want to be right, and we always want to be seen like, yes, I'm the head of the household, but it doesn't resort to that. Ethical fatherhood should be really pictured from our own. What do you want to teach your kids? Because as they say, every household has its rules, every home has its guidelines. So it depends on the father how you want to bring up your kids. And one thing that I always keep in mind from my dad, and which I also like to share with the world, is that raise your kids so they can survive with the community, because you never know when you are departing from this world. So don't raise them that you're going to be there forever. Raise them in a nature that should you be absent for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, they can survive without you. And that's also one thing I believe that's you being an ethical father. Train them on how to survive with the society. Train them on how to live with strangers or people that they are not comfortable with and all that. Because it's going to help them in the near future, whether you are there or when they start standing on themselves. That's why we still have people that are at the age of 50, but they can't cope with society because they were never given that space or they were never brought up in that space that I could actually live without my parents or I could actually live out without the comfortable zone that I'm in, that I'm brought up in. So that's also ethical from a fatherly perspective.
Fatherly perspective. Okay, so like across the African continent, we have seen like kind of like a it's kind of like a similar kind of thing of like the crisis of violence, like gender-based violence, absent fathers, and raising male suicides cases as well that are like drastically increasing as well. Like, do you see a link between broken families and broken leadership?
It's a good statement. One thing we should say is that leadership is everywhere.
Yeah.
It's at home, it's in school, it's at church, it's in our household.
Yeah.
So, broken families and leadership. And we're going to start off on the aspect of absent fathers. Many young men are being raised by women. And what does that install in a male child? I'm growing up without a father. So if my mom can raise me alone, my kids can also be raised by their mother. So the torch is being passed on in most particular cases that we know. That's why we have an increase of absent fathers. And particularly in the aspect of, to say, broken families. Children, we always picture them, we are like elephants. You'll be surprised when you are 40 or when you are 60 and your child tells you that, Daddy, do you remember what you did to me when I was 5 years old? Children barely forget. They have a mindset of an elephant. So what happens in their teenage stages sometimes is what comes out in their elder stages, and it's a reflection of what they went through. That's why sometimes they say we shouldn't use it as an excuse, but the way a man behaves sometimes in society in their elder stages, it's what has happened in their younger stages or when they were children. So broken families contrary contribute towards the aspect of broken leadership, or what broken families contribute towards leadership. The way the person grow and the way they carry themselves in society also attributes towards how they were raised and how they were brought up. If it was a one-sided relationship only with the mother, so they don't have the installing discipline from the dad. As we said, a father is a dominant parent. Daddies are supposed to install discipline into their children, and mothers are nurturing parents, whereby a mother will put you to school. And in the tolerance, I'm saying not put you to school as to say send you to school, because there's a norm, there's a word that some of our parents like using, like when you go out there and then your friends ask, so why did your mother call you? I know she put me to school. You went to get a beating. Yeah. So, but if you say you went to get a beating in front of your colleague, they'll start laughing. So we say, no, I was put to school. There's a difference between when your mom is putting you to school and when your dad is putting you to school. You might not sit for 2 days if it's dead, but with mom, just after that you wipe, you are back to your doings and all that. So that attributes to that aspect. Now, in the relation of saying the suicide aspect that's increasing, especially that is now being seen across Africa, the African continent, one thing we should accept as men, we are tailored. We are people that can tolerate physical pain. And I'm not speaking on behalf of every male that is out there, but it's from my observation and me myself as a man also. We have seen that we can tolerate physical pain, but emotional pain, it's something that breaks at men very easily. We are not built for emotional pain. There are those that can endure emotional pain, but most of men, we can't endure emotional pain. That's why you see it's either we end up murdering the partner and then we take our own life, or we end up taking our own life because emotionally we can't contain it. But physically, we can go even days with a wound. We don't even go for dressing at the hospital. We'll be like, as long as it's not rotting, I'll be fine. We are built to contain physical pain, but emotional pain, we are not. So this is also whereby we have to start picking up the lines that we need to speak up as men. I know it's not an easy job. especially for a man, because due to society. And as we say, nowadays, society has tailored, it's like they hold the menu of how we should live. For a man to come out there and say, this is what is bothering me and all that, it's just like when a man goes to a police station and then you say that, no, my girlfriend abused me. It takes some level of intelligence of the police officer in charge for them to say, okay, fine, can we get the file and open up a statement?
Yeah.
Some will start laughing, some will start mocking you. Are you a man? Are you really a man? Or for in a space of to say a man going there and said, I was raped by a female, to be like, we have never heard of a story, a man being raped by a female. But it happened to me. I didn't give consent to that, but it happened. So it's also society that needs to help us men open up and speak up. It's not easy for a man to come out and say, this and this happened to me, or this and this, it's currently what is going on to my life and I need help and all that. Very few come out, but majority that are going, we are losing young men due to this aspect that, should I talk? I'll be judged. Should I talk? I'll lose my respect as a man. Should I open up? I won't be seen as the respected Florian that is in society, and more people will be like, that guy is forever on podiums speaking about that, but he's weak. He's being beaten every day by the girlfriend and all that. And later on, that gets to draw me in. And then as more people get to talk about it, I won't be able to contain the emotions. The next thing we see, we have lost our life again due to suicide. So that's really sad. But as men, we need to start opening up. And society should be the first to help us really with this platform to start opening up. Give us the space where we can share our problems, where we can open up without being judged or without being mocked. I think if that can be done in the next years to come, we'll see the reduce and we'll also see the changes of what we want to see, especially when it comes to suicide, because young minds are going and brilliant skills are being lost through suicide, which is a sad reality.
Yeah, it's so true. So we need more safe spaces for men where we'll be able to be vulnerable without being labeled as weak. And just to also improve like the family leaderships and the like different families within community and stuff like that.
And I will encourage it will start from home, because if I'm able to open up to people that are at home, it will be easier for me to open up to stranger, even though nowadays it's vice versa, because your family is scared to judge you more than the society. So from my perspective, it should start from home.
Yeah.
We should be able to have that safe space where I can talk about my problems at home and see if they can be solved before I even go out there seeking for an alternative help.
Yeah.
By the time I reach out there, it should be a top up, not really for me to start from the genesis of the root cause of the problems and all that. So we'll put it in the aspect that to encourage young men, mothers and fathers out there, have occasional talks with your child. Open up to them that should you go through or encounter this, it's life. You are not the only one going through it. And there are many other people that are going through the same aspect or situation, but there are ways of how we can solve it. And as they say, failure becomes failure when you refuse to learn from it. If you learn from it, it becomes a lesson. So safe space should start at home before we can branch out and then look for outside help and all that. I think that would do us a bit of justice, because some of us, it depends from what angle you're approaching it, because some of us are able to open up at home, but some are able to open up to Elizabeth because, okay, Elizabeth doesn't know my mom, doesn't know my dad, he won't be able to tell them and all that. So it's both ways. We can say safe space outside, safe space should also be encouraged inside the household.
Okay. So for fathers who have never have maybe had good examples themselves, what does healing look like?
Okay. I'm quite fortunate. I'm 30 and I still have my dad that loves me like as if I'm 6 years old. So I've never experienced the aspect of not having a fatherly love. And fortunately, I'm the only son. I have two sisters. So yeah, he loves me and he shows it in all ways of aspect that he can. But for the young men out there that never really have the upbringing of having the attention of a father, and one thing I've always encouraged my fellow young men out there that don't have daddies is that one thing you should ask yourself is that, what are you going through without a dad? How is the experience? How is life without a father? Would you really want to put that, would you really want to put your child in that same space that you are going through? So that should be the changing line. We have seen men that have made it in life, well disciplined, but they were raised by mothers. There are mothers out there that play both roles, father and mother, strictly. But then we have the soft ones like Elizabeth, them, no, don't touch my teddy bear. He's the only one that I have and all that. But then you are not nurturing him in a way that he can survive society. So for the young men that are out there that have never really experienced fatherly love and all that, one thing that I've always learned to do is that brotherly love exists. And one thing I've always told myself is that there's a high possibility if your father is absent in your life, you have a sibling somewhere else. There's a high possibility.
Yeah.
Unless he passed. We are men, we are driven. There's a high possibility if that you are left with your mom, whether it's in another community location or maybe even next door, you got a sibling. So if you are both lucky that you have a brother out there, try creating that bond. The brotherly love also fills up the gap of fatherly love, because if you guys can honor each other and then trust one another and build that a bond, it will really at least limit the aspect of you missing that fatherly love and all that. And as they always say, there's always a favorite uncle that you can look up to, and that also plays a crucial role. I'm not saying it's fortunate that everyone gets to have a favorite uncle or someone that loves you, because we all know, apart from your parents, no one can love you more than them. So you won't experience the same love that their kids get, and that's one thing that most children fear. But genetically, if you are in a space whereby you have never experienced fatherly love, how do you get to cope and all that? You shouldn't beat yourself up. It's not your fault that daddy is not around, and it's not your fault that he's not being responsible towards you. For you, it's to better yourself with the resources that you have or the guidance that you have, or for those that are present in your life. And then you might feel the effect, especially if parent meetings and then your mother keeps to showing up, or your mother doesn't make it that day, and then you come to school and you find someone's father, your neighbor, came over. So those are moments that will remind you that yes, I don't have a dad, but it shouldn't throw you down as a young man.
Yeah. Okay. So I want us to go back to politics and a little bit of activism and leadership movement like that. So you call yourself Dr. Marembo without a PhD.
Yep.
So across Africa and like the world, we see a flood of like self-styled doctors, ambassadors, and change makers. So why do we feel we need the title or to overtitle ourselves?
Okay. It's a good question. And one thing I'll always put it to is that a person, you are not defined by your title. There's a say that goes that um, we have idiots that got PhDs. Sorry for the language. We have educated fools. But not in the aspect that they are fools, because if they were fools, they couldn't have attained that level of education that they have.
Yeah.
But your doing as a person, that's what really defines you. I like Mr. Derek. He was heading the Yale program in South Africa at the UNISA University. So the first thing he said when we arrived in South Africa, Joburg, Midrand, he said, whoever has a degree, raise your hands. So people shot their hands up. Master's degrees, raise your hand, shot their hands up. PhDs, PhD candidates, people with PhDs took their hands up. Like, the next thing he said is that I hope you left it in your country when you came to South Africa, because it doesn't matter here. I want the real you, not the education. And there's something that triggered his statement, because he said again that sometimes when we look at these educated people, when we look at them, the master's degree is in Ochivarongo, the person is in Okakarara, or maybe the person is in Kettmanshoop. There's a huge gap between the owner and the qualification. It's because of how they behave and what they do. It's not matching towards the qualification that the person holds. So the titles, really, they are there as a form of appreciation. I'll put it in that way. When we say Doctor Who, we are appreciating your efforts and your work, but it's not entirely for us to say that we are defining you as a doctorate holder and anything like that. So, and that's why it's always encouraged that when you gather around people, or when you come across people, or when you're having either conferences and seminars, leave your degree at home. There is no need. You can introduce yourself as Doctor Who and all that, but don't bring your degree towards the conference and all that, because now that's where people start saying like, yeah, he said he's a doctorate in administration and all this, but his doings are not really adding up. Did you buy it? Or how did you earn it? So politics and way leadership, and then the titles that are conferred among people. That's why there's an African country that is trying to do away with the honorary doctorates and all this, because they don't need any more honorary doctorates in their country. They feel like people have just decided they don't study, I just do a bit of work here, and then the university will honor me and confer me a doctorate, and then I'll be Dr. Florian and all that. So titles really shouldn't depict or define who we are and what we do. They should be a stage of recognition that, yeah, he has worked hard and earned and achieved that doctorate in that certain field of study. But it shouldn't really emulate to how you carry yourself or handle yourself in society. We don't need to bow down if you show up because you got a PhD. You are human. We are also human. We want to appreciate you. That's your work in the academic field. But when you come to the ground as a human being, we work together as human beings and all that. That's where we see people and start seeing that we have fools that have earned degrees. And if you look at their qualification and their work scope, it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, that's so true. And like with your title, do you use it probably like as a branding or a survival, or is it like an ego?
Okay. With mine, I normally use it because I'm manifesting. Unless God invites me to leave this planet, I'm going to get that PhD. And that's my goal. So when I say Dr. Marembo without a PhD, it's not for me really to put out there that it's the ego or what. No, most of the events that I attend, I'm addressed as Florian Marembo, or they address me as the charity guy, whatever name. And I'm one of the people that always also had this heart with the honorables when they come into society. They want to say, no, honorable minister. And I'm like, yeah, but your birth certificate doesn't have the title honorable. There's just Festus Kashkwashike and all that. We don't have the honorable on it. So in my perspective, for me, it's just a manifestation. Like I'm gonna earn it. Whether today, tomorrow, or whenever God's timing is the best. But I use mine to remind myself that there's a book that I have in my room that I always read. It's authored by, I can't remember the author, but it's How to Get Your PhD or How to Get a PhD. So I always read that book, and my goal is to have that doctorate, because I remember having a conversation with my grandma, and I told her like, no, I'm Dr. Marembo, or one day I want to have a PhD and be called Dr. Marembo. And then she's like, so in what hospital are you going to work? I'm like, no, Granny, it's not about hospital. There's a difference between the doctor by profession and the doctor by qualification. So I want to be one by qualification, not necessarily by profession and all that. I have nothing to do with the medicine world. I am into the other field. So basically, when we talk about titles, it shouldn't define you as a person, and it shouldn't define your work of scope and all that. It's a title, but you shouldn't really be upset if someone approach you and say, oh, hi, Elizabeth. And you'll be like, no, don't call me Elizabeth. I'm Dr. Elizabeth.
Yeah.
If you bring out your ID, it doesn't convey any Dr. Elizabeth. It's just Elizabeth and then your surname or your other names. So really with titles, there are those that take it lightly, like some of us, like even though we haven't ended it yet, but should I have a PhD in my capacity, I'll still be fine with someone approaching me and saying, hi, Florian, or hi, Marembo. I'm still fine. It's my name. And that's what matters, not the title that is attached to it.
Yeah, it's true. I think it's actually due time now that we edit our like IDs. You put doctor if I have a PhD. You put Dr. Elizabeth there or something. I don't know.
I don't know, the ego and pride will, for those that see it necessarily, but in my capacity, title doesn't really matter, because one thing I've really seen is that look at Prof. Lumbumba, Patrice Lumbumba.
Yeah.
He's a prof, and we can even picture it to our own Professor Disho.
Yeah.
I've met Professor Disho countless times in the capital, and I'll be like, hi, Mr. Disho, or hi, Joseph Disho, and all that. He'll be like, hi, young man, how are you? It doesn't matter whether you address him by prof or nah. It's just a title, but it doesn't convey in his doing and all his messages that he sends out there.
Yeah.
So your title doesn't really tell us what you do and all that. It's just a title that you have. You have earned it. You have earned the respect, but it shouldn't define you as a person.
Yeah. It's true, it's true. So, and like you have trained young people in entrepreneurship and leadership as well. So, what 3 habits or maybe principle do you teach that actually change their behaviors?
Okay, that's a good one. The first thing that we should look into is financial discipline. Why do we have so much young people that have good pay slips, but if you still find them, they're drowning in debts that they can't escape, and you still find them, they're making undesirable decisions when it comes to finance. So the most important thing that we normally do in the field of the financial aspect or business trainings, it's financial discipline. You need to learn the money rule, 50, 30, and 20. It speaks a language. That's why we understand some people that you can be having a good salary, but when we look at your survival means, it doesn't add up. We start questioning, Elizabeth, where is the money going?
Yeah.
You have a good package if we look at it on paper, but if we look it on the ground, no. Elizabeth is forever stressful because now and then she runs out of fuel. Now and then there's no relation at home. Now and then you sleep 2 days, the house is dark, like as if you are some wizards because you can afford electricity. So financial discipline is key. And then the other aspect is that many young people are not waking up to the call to say that your pay slip is your vehicle to financial freedom. Many people still live in survival mode. As they have always said, no one has ever become rich from a pay slip. If you did it, we don't know how. Yeah. Maybe it exists, but on a minimal percentage. But what multiplies to gain you financial freedom? And mostly the most vehicle that you can utilize is your pay slip. And one thing that mostly young people we are doing wrong is that we end up getting liabilities. We acquire liabilities instead of assets. And that's when we later realize that, why am I been working? We have young people that have resigned from their good jobs because for the past 15 years, he asked himself, I've been working for the past 15 years. And on paper, I have good numbers. They are good figures. But on the ground, there's nothing tangible. And then the other aspect also in business-wise that we've always advocated for is that a business doesn't mean anything if it's not a solution to a problem. And I like my favorite example that I always give is that before we were born, ShopRite existed. Pick and Pay, that is now Modal, existed before we were born. But to date, they're still profitable and they're still running. Why is that the case? And the answer comes that they're solving a problem. They're selling food, which we need. We need food as human beings. Pep sells clothes. We need to dress. Whatever. Every business mind out there should first relook at the dynamic of whatever business they wish to put forward. Is it solving a problem? Is it a need or is it a want? Because if it's a want, I can always choose to get it the next day and you lose a customer for that day. But if it's a need, it will trigger me, I need to spend. So when we look into the business world, we also need to understand the dynamics. Just like they say, if you plant a mango in the north or wherever, it will survive here and then, but plant it in Rondo, okay, so say that. The condition, the land is conditioned to grow mangoes, or it's a favorable condition for it to grow. So when we choose a space for a business, we also need to look, we also teach the aspect of, you need to look into the environment. Is it favorable for that type of business? Is it suitable? Will it survive? Because there's a time frame that if a business can survive the first 6 months, then give it a chance, it might go through.
Okay, so like we have been empowering youth for decades. So if all that training worked, why are we still talking about empowerment today?
Okay, it's a good one because we had the same discussion on the Nigerian platform. They have the same question, like we have been soliciting and also pumping resources into youth empowerment, women empowerment, but to date, it's still what's happening. Why haven't we seen any aspect of change, or if there's any change that is happening? So in the relation of our own country here, I would say one reason is that we can relate it back is that we are investing in people that we are unable to give a space for them to unleash their potentials of what the government or whoever has invested into them. So for instance, we would say, well, let's take an example of our main university in Namibia. There's UNAM, and year in, year out, there's always around 4,000 to 3,000 graduates of teachers and all that. But we don't have enough schools for them to actually go and put that in practicality. So what are we doing in that aspect? We still start preaching the same thing. We need teachers that needs to go to school and then be educated, the education aspect. So one for all is that the reason why we still sing today youth empowerment is because either we are failing to address the aspect that after these people are empowered, how do we get them? How do we integrate them back in the society so they can at least do what they were empowered in, and how they can also give back to the next generation? So until we are able to solve that question, it will remain the aspect of us singing empowerment, because we empower people. Florian was sent to the US, he came back, but are we giving him any room for him to at least share what he has learned in the US with others that have never seen even the airport? It's not happening. So the next time there's another fund, we're gonna send someone to the US again. They come back, they also just tell their household that okay, in the US this and this happens, but not on a larger scale.
Yeah.
So until we get to create that space whereby these people that we are empowering can give back to society,
Yeah.
can reintegrate back into the society and also uplift the other youth, we'll keep wasting money on youth empowerment. We are empowering, but we are empowering who?
Yeah.
That's a question mark that we'll have. Who are we empowering?
Like, yeah. It's true. So, have you ever worked on an initiative that failed? And yeah, and what did
Plenty,
really?
plenty. It's very that's a beautiful question. Let's say, especially in the world of charity, the scores are more than the missed ones and all that. So there's a high chances of initiatives that have failed,
Yeah.
and some of these failures are not because of the implementer in the capacity of myself. I can have a good proposal, I can tailor a good initiative and all that, but it's the helping hands that needs to come in. As I'll tailor it, I'll say what really matters to me sometimes doesn't matter to the next person.
Yeah.
What I see beneficial to society right now, if I put it on the ground, for an example, I would say no. We need to put water tanks in Ndama Long to Long. It's an informal settlement in Rundu, whereby people are facing scarcity of water, even though there's water running on the tap on other settlements, but for them it's still dry. But someone will be like, nah, I think they need roads. How many people from Ndama Long to Long own cars that you're saying you need to propagate a better road? So many of some of the initiative fails not because of the implementer or the founder of the initiative, but it's the essence of the players that come on board. If they don't see the initiative relevant, most of the time it ends up with yourself.
Yeah. And can you name probably like an initiative that you were working on and failed, or a project or so?
Oh, we can mention a lot,
Yeah.
but one thing that I worked on that has failed, it's for me, it's a project that I wanted to do in the north. Yeah, I'm someone that is passionate about youth empowerment and community development. We were trying to build. I discovered the elderly in the newspaper. She was 88 years old and she didn't have proper sanitation at home.
Yeah.
So when nature called, she still had to go walk a bit of distance to the bushes to relieve herself. And I saw it as it's a crisis. And bear in mind, this is an 88-old lady, so she was at high risk. Anything could happen to her. So we put everything necessary in place whereby we could at least push forward and give birth to the project.
Yeah.
But it's the players that came on board. Up to date, that project has never been given birth to. And that's one thing that also gave me sleepless nights. Unfortunately, she passed, which is not something to celebrate, but at least God relieved her of the pain that she was enduring. But I felt like we could still do something, but it's still the aspect of the players. The place is not surveyed or it's not configured yet. You can't put a permanent structure, etc., and all this. There's a lot that comes in place when you are trying to build up something like that. And that's really one thing that I would say has failed miserably from my side, and it's one of something that I don't like talking about because it pains me that she went without dignity. Because really that was a case that pains. I was imagining my own grandmother in her shoe, and it really didn't sit well with me. But nevertheless, it's a chapter closed.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay. So, what is one uncomfortable truth about youth leadership that we don't admit publicly?
One
Youth leadership, like uncomfortable truth. Yeah,
that we don't admit publicly.
Yeah, about youth leadership.
Okay. From my perspective, one of the youth leadership attribute that we really don't admit publicly is the aspect that sometimes we are not ready to lead as we think. And just because we have the formal education, we feel like we know it all. And when we are told like, no, that's not how things should happen, we always get raged and anger because we feel like, no, we have honors degrees, we have bachelors, we have masters, we feel like we know it all. And that's one thing that I've realized in many young people, including myself at some certain level. I also admit that publicly sometimes I don't want to be labeled like I don't know something that I'm doing. But in reality, sometimes when you take a pause and then you sit back and then you listen to the next correspondent that is telling you an idea, you get to open up like, nah, I think it will be done in another way, or I think it will be done. One thing about us with the artificial intelligence that is in place, we can draft a proposal overnight, even 72 pages and all that, because we know all the tools that we can use to generate things. But it's something that we are failing to admit publicly, that sometimes we are not ready to lead, especially in the political world. Just because we know the constitution, we know the law and all that, it doesn't really reflect that you can lead as a leader.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that really pains young people, especially the educated ones, to admit that, yes, I'm not prepared to lead as a leader. We just want titles, we want recognition, we want to be known that, yes, I can also do A, B, C, D, but are you really prepared mentally, spiritually, intellectually? Are you really there? Can you put your whole heart into it? That's why we see people resign, because it's not what they thought it is. When you're outside, as I said, you can only see the picture, the frame of the picture when you're outside the frame. But when you're in the picture, you won't be able to see the frame. So most of young people, we are in the picture, we can't see the frame, but we believe like, no, we know what we are doing. And for some young people to admit that we are wrong and we are not ready, it's not it's not a comfortable space for them to be in.
Yeah, it's so true. So if youth leadership fails in our lifetime today, so what will you say? What will kill it, or what will have killed it? Will it be the funding, the ego, or the fear?
Let's take it on the first stage. One thing that will have killed youth leadership, it's the fear. We don't want to speak our mind off because we are scared either we'll be sidelined or we'll be labeled as rebels or people that don't understand what they are doing. So fear is the first poison to an initiative.
Yeah.
So youth leadership, if should it die out today, it's the fear because we are scared. If we speak out, if I bring my reasoning to the table, the elders will reject it, or people will start seeing me like, yeah, and it's either I'll bring shame upon our family or I'll bring shame upon people who will not talk to me and all those things. So it's the fear that combats us and then keeps us in the loophole to say that, no, I can't come out there because I'm scared of what people will say about me. I'm scared about what they will think about me, the family and all this. And at a certain stage also, that's when people will start asking themselves, no, people will be saying like, no, I act like I know it all. But you know it. It's just the fear that if you say it, someone will have an opinion to say that, no, you don't know what you're doing. And then that's why you're not saying it out. So for me, with the aspect of lack of resources, there will always be resources. There is no way there is no resources. As I said, in a room of 10 people, 9 can ignore, but there's an ear that will listen to you, the 10th one. So there will always be resources. If there are no resources, there's ways that resources can be brought upon to give birth to a certain initiative. So the fear will be the cause of our death if we don't voice out as young people. As long as we are doing it in the right, proper, rightful manner and respectful order, then nothing should hinder the process. But if we choose to say and do things the way we feel like, ignoring the laws and regulations that are in place, then that speaks to another alteration and all that. So fear, I'll put a full stop on that one. Fear will be the death of our voices if we don't speak out.
Okay, interesting. So Florian, when history looks back to this generation or to this our lifetime, will this generation of young people be remembered as those ones that actually shake the system, or actually those that actually managing it politely?
Okay. One thing we should now put into contrary is that which generation are we talking about? We have Tadesema's generation, which is us, the ones that were born after independence. And then we have Tate Pohamba's generation, the ones that were born after 2005. And then we have Tate Hage Gengob's generation that were born after 2014. And then we have Tate Nangolo Mbumba, his reign of a year. So there was also people that were born in that era. And then we have Kuku, also. She has her own generation, those that are being born. So practically, we should now understand which generation. I will pick myself, for an example. We're born in Tadesem's administration, but we only got to understand politics in Tate Pohamba a bit, and then transitioning into Tate Hage's administration. That's when we got to understand leadership and the whole transition of politics. So for us to determine now the aspect level of to say, how will we really picture, were we the ones that are gonna silence this, or are we the ones that are managing it politely, or are we the ones causing chaos? It's both. It plays from both perspectives. There are those young people that are really following the rules and regulations out there, that are trying to bring change using the rightful tools. I will take an example of our former lecturer, Dr. Job Mpanda. We've been following his activism and following his activities. Some of the activities you see when there were demonstrations, I've never seen Dr. Job being arrested. If he has been arrested for some demonstration and all that, I'm not aware of it, and I speak under terms of correction. But I've been following since, I think, I don't know when he was in the SPYL and all that, with the tender age. I've never seen him arrested and all that. Why? There are some activists that have been in and out of prison that we can't mention right now here. But what made the other one avoid jail or prison? It's not because they were not doing the same job that the others are doing, but it's because they were following their channels. They were following the right regulations and guidelines that are there. You want to demonstrate? Bring in a petition. Let it be approved. Have your demonstration. But if you show up without authority and you are not approved and all that, then you try to bring chaos in society, that's going to end up for us causing chaos. So for us to say now, to answer the question, to say that what generation, how we pictured, are we the generation that are going to manage this administration or the whole aspect of moving forward as a country, or will be labeled as the one that has brought chaos upon? So it's on both sides. And with a country like Namibia with so different many political affiliations, that's one of the most provocation that I've seen, that it provokes most of the disorganized things that happens in society, because who is wearing red, the other one is red, wearing blue, the other one is wearing a black. We don't get to understand one another, and things end up at the side where we don't want them. But generatically, if we picture it from where I started understanding leadership and politics, I believe that it's transitioning in a way that youth will be pictured or remembered as the aspect of the era whereby we were managing things in the rightful order. We are moving, we are understanding the system, we are understanding the law, we are understanding how things should be done, we are understanding who should be approached first when we want to do A, B, C, D. So we are getting there. And I think we are also learning as young people that violence doesn't pay. And creating riots and all this civil unrest doesn't really bring tangible results. But when you get to walk into an office, approach the rightful order, as I always say, people have resources. It's just the manner of how you approach them. Should you approach them in the rightful order, they will listen. They are human beings. And you'll be able to solve a crisis, or you'll be able to solve a problem. If they can't help you, at least they'll pinpoint you in a direction that, unfortunately, Florian, we can't assist you in that regards, but maybe you should ask Miss Elizabeth. She has a bit of knowledge on that, and she'll be able to guide you. So the generation of the current trend will say, we are managing. We are following the rules, we are following the regulations, and we are at least administering respect, because that's the core fundamental value of human beings. We need to respect the elders, despite of them not being educated as us, but they've walked the earth first before us. And just because we have a degree to your name doesn't give you the authority to disrespect someone that is in power, even though they don't have a qualification. Because that's what's lately been happening among us youth. We want to say, minister who doesn't have a degree, they only have a certificate, but the knowledge encompassed in that person, it's totally way much than what you have with your degree.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So thank you so much, Dr. Marembo, without the big...
Yeah, this stage you can say doctor, not doctor, you can say Florian, it's fine. Yeah, I'm not defined by the title that I'm trying to get. Yeah, Marembo.
You're manifesting. So,
we are manifesting. One day is one day.
And we're gonna call you back here.
Yeah, we're gonna wear that red gown. It's gonna match with this.
With the madness.
Yeah, it's gonna match with the mat, and the suit will be black.
Yes, exactly.
So no, we are manifesting. One day is one day.
One day is one day.
Yeah, we'll bring it. We'll bring it home.
Okay, it's true. It's true. So, but yeah, thank you so much actually for coming on our show and really sharing your knowledge and your experiences. And I just hope that the audience also like really found it valuable and educative as I found it as well. So thank you so much. And like, is there anything else that probably I left out that I haven't asked you that you like love to air on the podcast as well?
Now, at this moment, I say, let's save the rest for the next session and all that. But I should also give my appreciation. Imagine we've been postponing this since April. In and out of the country, back and forth. This one has time, this one doesn't have time. So I'm really honored to have made it to the show and to the interview and all that. And I'm grateful that I had an opportunity to share my insights, especially from the philanthropy world, what really goes in, because majority feel like it's an easy world in charity. There's sleepless nights, proposals rejected by funders and all this. but you still wake up the next morning trying to see where can I get help.
Yeah.
So I put food on the table for those people. So I put shelter and all that. So it was good. And I'm sure that from this interview, at least we could have, the more we are, the better.
Yeah.
As long as we are not duplicating initiatives. Let's find value, let's find uniqueness in what we do, but let's not duplicate initiatives. We can't all be having soup kitchens in Havana and all this. Let's start looking into other crises that we could solve or problems that we could solve. Until then, Elizabeth, I'm very much honored and I appreciate the time and effort that you have put in with your team to host me here. I'm delighted, and yeah, for now, let's leave it Florian Marembo. We'll see when the PhD comes.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much.